This multi-class build combines War Cleric 7 with Beast Master Ranger 5 and is absolutely incredible to play. Up to 3 attacks per turn are at my disposal, while Spirit Guardians damages everything that gets close. This alone is amazing already, but when you add a total of up to 4 summons to this, then it gets really insane, considering they are all able to soak up some hits, deal extra damage, and provide a variety of useful effects. Now, let's dive into the build creation. As always in my builds, I leave race and background to personal preference. They usually do not matter a lot, and without focusing on these 2 minor aspects, the build is more easily applied to both custom characters and existing companions. I start with Cleric, and the first thing to pick are 3 cantrips. Thaumaturgy isn't something I personally use so far, as other cantrips always seem to provide more value, including dialogue boosts where this is meant to shine. Sacred Flame is a clear pick. It's good damage at range that doesn't cost a spell slot. And on top of that, it does not require any attack rolls, but a saving throw instead. So it excels against anything with low dexterity in particular. Guidance is another clear pick for me. Ability checks play such an important role in the game, whether that is during dialogue or activities like lockpicking. The lack of ability restriction makes it incredibly versatile as well. Resistance can be useful in very specific situations, but I personally do not recommend it. Only one concentration spell can be active at any time, and there are much better options available. Light is another cantrip I do not recommend. While darkness is something important to tackle in order to avoid penalties on attack rolls, for example, there are other options for that. Blade Ward, on the other hand, is a solid pick for the 3rd cantrip. Its protection lasts for more than 1 turn, and it doesn't require any concentration. Produce Flame is otherwise also a solid pick. Not only allows it to generate a light source out of nowhere, the flame that is created can also be thrown for damage or to ignite things like smoke powder barrels. It's a matter of preference to pick Blade Ward or Produce Flame here as the 3rd cantrip. Whatever isn't picked will still get added a couple of levels later. There are several amazing options to pick as subclass, depending on the desired playstyle. For this particular build, which is more melee and weapon damage focused, I'm going with War Cleric. War Cleric adds 2 spells to my arsenal. These spells do not have to be prepared by choosing them as part of my spellbook. They are available all the time. The first one is Divine Favor. Early on, this can be a great option. It gives me an opportunity to make efficient use of my bonus action, and the effect lasts for multiple turns. It does require concentration though, so it will later have to make room for other spells in many instances. The second spell is Shield of Faith. While it says this is a better version of the spell that all clerics get access to, the only difference here is that it does not require any spellbook slot. It simply is always prepared. Depending on the fight, this can be a good alternative to Divine Favor, as it increases my survivability and is less spell slot costly by lasting until long rest rather than just 3 turns. The most important part of War Cleric at this level is War Priest though. At level 1, I receive 3 War Priest charges that replenish with a long rest. Each charge can be used to use my bonus action for another attack whenever I attack with my weapon already. The permanent attack from Barbarian, Paladin, Fighter, or Ranger is obviously much better, but neither of them gets this before level 5, which makes this situational bonus attack from War Cleric so powerful, especially early on. Noteworthy as well is the fact that the regular extra attack from the classes mentioned earlier does not stack, whereas the situational bonus attack from War Cleric can be combined with them, allowing for up to 3 attacks in 1 turn as early as level 6. As a War Cleric, there are 2 main abilities, Wisdom and Strength. Wisdom is needed for spellcasting and synergizes with the Ranger here, who also uses Wisdom for spellcasting. Strength is needed for melee attacks. Both of these I do raise to 16 to unlock a +3 bonus modifier right away. Next up is my Constitution. This is important for my overall health pool, but also for any Constitution saving throws, which includes concentration. Ideally, I almost always want to have a concentration spell active, so I'm raising this to at least 14 here. Now the final ability points are somewhat flexible. Personally, I like to push dexterity to 12 to increase my initiative as well as my armor class, as long as I'm not using any heavy armor. But either way here is more or less fine. Proficiencies can be chosen pretty much as per personal preference as well, especially since they might be further affected by the chosen background. At level 2, I pick another class right away, and that is Ranger 1. All level ups come with an increase in health points. This is true here as well, even though it doesn't say so specifically due to branching out into a multi-class. First to pick here then is Favorite Enemy. Bounty Hunter grants proficiency in investigation and punishes enemies with disadvantage on their saving throws if hit by Ensnaring Strike. Considering spells like Sacred Flame that require a saving throw rather than an attack roll, this already opens up some synergies. Keeper of Veil grants proficiency in Arcana and the spell protection from evil and good. That spell I already know from Cleric 1 though, so this pick is not an option for me. Magebreaker also comes with proficiency in Arcana and the True Strike spell on top. This is an absolute no-go for me too. Not only is True Strike lackluster in general, I also have Guiding Bolt already that allows for advantage on the next attack while also dealing damage on top. Ranger Knight gives proficiency in history and armor proficiency in heavy armor. As a war cleric, I already have the latter, so this is another no-go here. With Sanctified Stalker granting proficiency in religion and then Sacred Flame as another spell I already know, it joins the list of options that aren't viable for me here. So the choice is easy by picking Bounty Hunter. Next up is the selection for Natural Explorer. Beast Tamer allows me to summon a familiar that can aid me in a variety of ways, depending on the choice of familiar. While low in health, this is still another body that can soak up some hits, do a bit of damage, and just in general distract enemies. Urban Tracker grants proficiency in Sleight of Hand. For this build, that is not something I'm interested in. The low dexterity alone makes this a bad choice for my main character to lockpick or disarm traps. Wasteland Wanderer grants either resistance against cold, fire, or poison. Either of these are theoretically fine, but they are situational. My pick here is clearly Beast Tamer to unlock the Find Familiar spell, especially since that doesn't require any spell slots when cast. At level 3, I stick with Ranger and can choose 2 new spells. The first pick is Ensnaring Strike. While it says ranged here, the attack has a ranged and a melee option. Due to the Bounty Hunter pick at the last level, hitting enemies with Ensnaring Strike adds disadvantage to saving throws as an additional bonus effect. If the target actually becomes ensnared, this adds lots of other beneficial effects as well, such as movement restriction, extra damage, or advantage when attacking the creature. This has to be used consciously though, as it comes with a concentration effect and does cost a spell slot, so it cannot be combined with other concentration spells. My second pick is Hail of Thorns. It can deal damage to multiple enemies, and even if I miss, Thorns still explode to deal at least half the damage if the enemies succeed in their saving throws. As a fighting style, defense to increase armor class by 1 is the only viable choice. I play this build more defensively so that my concentration spells provide as much value as possible. The less I get hit, the less likely it is for enemies to break my concentration. At level 4, I pick Ranger 3. The first thing to choose here is another spell. I suggest either Speak with Animals or Enhance Leap. The latter has a bit more potential to help you in combat as well, so this is my personal pick here. Next up then is the Ranger subclass. For this build, Beast Master is the right pick. This grants the Ranger's companion action, which allows me to summon a beast to fight alongside me. The range of available beasts allows for a bit of flexibility as well, which can open up opportunities to leverage vulnerabilities of certain enemies. At level 5, I continue the Ranger path, which adds some additional spell slots. More importantly though, I can choose my first feat. The choice is between +2 strength or +2 wisdom. Either is fine at this stage and simply means the opposite choice when the next feat comes around. While both Cleric and Ranger spells use wisdom as spellcasting ability, I personally go to 18 strengths first. The reason is that the limited spell slots available are partially meant for supporting skills that don't care about my wisdom modifier. At level 6, I pick Ranger 5, which is another reason for choosing Strength rather than Wisdom as the first ability improvement. Ranger 5 unlocks a free extra attack without any costs, and as such works well with the now +4 bonus modifier from Strength. I also get to pick another spell. My personal choice here is Dark Vision, since it can be cast outside of combat as well, and lasts until the next long rest, possibly providing value in more than just one situation. Last but not least, at this level my Beast Companion gets a major buff as well. My +3 wisdom proficiency bonus now gets added to both its armor class and its damage rolls, granting me a much more powerful ally. The extra attack from Ranger and War Cleric interfere with one another if taken in the wrong order. Until this gets patched somehow, a respec at this level needs to be done. Simply pick the 5 Ranger levels first, as described in this guide so far, then add the initial War Cleric 1 with the right choices afterwards. Because of this order, the Ranger extra attack now gets triggered first, allowing to choose afterwards whether or not the situational Cleric extra attack also should get used. At level 7, I go back to Cleric. This adds my first Divine Charge, including the Turn Undead spell. As a second option to spend the Divine Charge, I also get Guided Strike. This reaction gives me a high probability of being able to turn a miss into a successful attack, which can be invaluable in certain situations. At level 8, I pick Cleric 3, which unlocks Cleric level 2 spells. As War Domain spells, I get Magic Weapon and Spiritual Weapon, both now always prepared. Spiritual Weapon is the important thing here. It adds another body to the board, allows for flexible choice of damage type, and can be cast before a fight if necessary. Requiring only a bonus action, it also doesn't interfere with any regular melee attacks during battle. In terms of prepared spells at this level, I definitely add 8 here. This is another key part of the build. With my familiar, my beast companion, my spiritual weapon, and my own character, this already makes 4 targets that benefit from a boost in health. 8 can also be upcast as higher spell slot levels are unlocked. This grants even more HP for everyone. At level 9, Cleric 4 first allows me to pick another cantrip. As mentioned earlier in the video, this is where I pick Blade Ward after preferring Produce Flame as third cantrip at Cleric level 1. I also get another spell slot, which actually is at level 3 already, despite no level 3 spells being added yet. This can still be utilized by upcasting a spell like 8 though. The choice of the additionally prepared spell here is up to personal preference. I personally like to add Blindness here. As my next feat, I now push Wisdom to 18 as well, considering it not only improves some of my damage spells and saving throws, but also boosts the armor class and the damage of my beast companion by another +1. At level 10, I keep boosting my cleric and get Destroy Undead as an improvement to my Turn Undead spell. Next to the Radiant version of Spirit Guardians, this is very effective against any undead. Spirit Guardians is what gets unlocked at this level as a domain spell that is always prepared. In many cases, this is also the spell that is meant to be active as a concentration spell going forward. When it comes to additional spell preparation, I do add 2 of the newly unlocked level 3 spells. First, I add Mass Healing Word as an additional heal option to put my bonus actions to use and to spread healing across multiple targets. The second pick is up to personal preference again. Animate Dead can give some opportunities to add even more bodies to the battlefield, while Speak with Dead is incredibly useful throughout the entire game in case it hasn't been unlocked in a different way yet. Feign Death can also be a form of a panic button in a particular situation when an ally needs additional support. Personally though, I pick Animate Dead here. At level 11, Cleric 6 adds a second Divine Charge and level 4 spell slot. Also, I receive War God's Blessing that now also allows me to spend Divine Charges as a reaction to boost attack rolls of others. With no level 4 spells unlocked yet, I personally pick Feign Death now. Usually I have other means of speaking to the dead at this point already. At level 12, I get additional spell slots, including one at level 5. Also, Stone Skin and Freedom of Movement are added as domain spells that are always prepared. Stone Skin is usually less interesting, but Freedom of Movement can be quite useful in certain situations. When it comes to the final spell choice, I pick Guardian of Faith, which adds even more summons to my arsenal. Even unbuffed, this can be quite powerful if placed properly. The Cleric plays a bit differently in a group setting, but just to showcase its potential, I attack solo half a dozen wolves at level 11 and 12 on Tactician difficulty. The wolves are further aided by a dozen critters and 2 humans. I enter the fight with my familiar, my beast companion, and my spiritual weapon summoned, and spirit guardians active already. Several of the critters immediately die when failing their saving throws against spirit guardians. After being damaged by spirit guardians as well, one of the werewolves takes another hit from my wolf companion. The wolves clearly try to stay away from my cleric due to the area effect. My crab misses its target, and shadowheart afterwards cannot move because she's afraid of wolves and failed her saving throw. So I bring out Guardian of Faith instead to take some hits and deal extra damage. Next up is my spiritual weapon, dealing some nice damage on its own. Faith of Guardian immediately gets to work right after, which obviously is related to the placement that I choose here. This was meant to keep some of the wolves back a bit, even if only for 1 or 2 turns. My crab tanked even more damage then, which brings me back to my wolf, who gets rid of the rat that kept staying outside of the Spirit of Guardian's range. After Faith of Guardian is going down, it's time for my cleric to get back into the fight for real. First, Spirit of Guardian triggers and kills the remaining critters. Then I run into the midst of the battle, dealing even more damage before attacking. I then kill one of the humans first, do some additional damage to a werewolf, and heal some of the damage to my entire group. Overall, a pretty efficient turn. Spiritual Weapon then brings down another enemy with a major hit, while my own wolf companion is doing everything it can to sacrifice itself for me by keeping the majority of the door blocked. After dealing some extra damage, its time has come though, leaving me with the cleric, Spiritual Weapon, and my crab. By now, it isn't too much of a fight anymore though. My cleric gets close for free damage and kills the first remaining enemy, while reducing the HP of another one even further. Spiritual Weapon manages to deal significant damage right after as well again, before tanking several hits while remaining on the battlefield. After killing the last human in a reaction, my cleric kills another enemy with a melee hit, leaving only 2 wolves to attack me. The first one dies to a reaction, with the last one following shortly after. The amount of additional bodies combined with Spirit Guardians and up to 3 attacks per turn is really incredible to play. There's so much utility, allowing me to flexibly react to the needs of different encounters without sacrificing raw power. I really hope that others will enjoy this build as much as I do. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future. See you in Baldur's Gate 3.